How's it going, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about this brand new pair of truly wireless earbuds, the ZNT AirCore that I picked up a few weeks ago that just arrived yesterday. So my first video about truly wireless earbuds was about my QCY T1Pro pair that I got a few months ago, and it was pretty good, as I mentioned in my video, except for a couple of niggling annoyances. Number one, when I take calls like voice calls or Skype or real phone calls over my carrier or WhatsApp calls, I can only hear out of one ear. I thought at first it was a bug with my Bluetooth configuration, but after researching, I figured out it really was a limitation in that particular kind of cheap Bluetooth earbud and a lot of sub $60 Bluetooth earbuds. So I thought, like, what the hell, and I just sold it real cheap because I didn't want it becoming electronic waste sitting in a drawer somewhere. Since I've made that video, I've already upgraded to a new phone, the Xiaomi Mi A2. Also made a quick overview of this phone and you could check it out. I'll link to it below. What with all these phones ditching the headphone jack, even, this is a cheap $250 phone. It's not even a premium phone. The type of people who buy these phones, aka me and other people, they're not gonna be spending $100, $150 for a pair of really nice wireless earbuds. That's gonna be like more than half the price of this phone already. So I was just stuck using the included USB-C to audio jack dongle that came with a box, which was it's pretty decent. I permanently attached it to my favorite pair of earphones, and that's how I've been going about my day. The problem is it's a bit inconvenient to have a dongle because I also like plugging in my phone to the car via an auxiliary jack. So I was riding my friend's car a few weeks back and, well, I was listening to my music on her car stereo. So I plugged in my Mi A2 to her car with the auxiliary cable using the dongle, which was all great and fine up until I left the dongle in her car. And then I had to go back to retrieve it the next day. I could buy a bunch of 10 others as a spare, but it's so confusing now, all these like aftermarket USB-C to earphone dongles, because some of them are analog, some of them are digital, and you never know if it's going to work with your phone or not because they're not clearly labeled, and who knows if they're even going to work with your next phone. And then I also got myself a pair of USB-C earphones that are pretty cheap. It's shaped like a knockoff earpod, but it's pretty good in a pinch. Aside from that though, I still prefer having a dedicated earphone jack because sometimes in the car, when I'm on a call or when I'm just listening to music, whatever, I like to just keep the phone charged or charging while I'm listening to the audio. Now I can just do one at a time. But enough digression, let's get on with the review. So as I mentioned, my previous QCY T1Pros are pretty decent for the price, except for the fact that when I take a call, I can only hear out of one ear. These ZNT AirCores, they come in a cheaper looking package than the QCY T1Pros. That one is pretty nice. It has a brushed steel finish, the case, and you can operate it one-handed. Well, not operate it, but you can slide out the, I don't have the demo now because I sold it, but you can slide out the tray, the charging tray from the housing with one hand, and then you pick up the buds and put it in your ear. This one is it's cheaper, it's plastic, and you can't open it one-handed. You have to like crack it open with your nails, but aside from that, it's pretty okay. Anyway, it's lighter because it's plastic and not steel, so that's fine. And it takes up less space in your bag, so that's one bonus. I don't really care much for aesthetics of the case itself, so this is okay for me. It's definitely easier to pair for sure. I remember when I made the video of the previous pair, it took a while to pair, and the manual even had a special section for what to do in case it doesn't pair properly the first time. This one is just pretty much you pop open the lid and then you take out the earbuds and then you turn on Bluetooth in your phone. It's just gonna show up in the list of Bluetooth peripherals. You click connect and it's paired. Pairing was really fast. So I'm comparing my current ZNT AirCore earbuds with the previous QCY T1Pro ones, not because the previous one is some super popular or well-known pair of wireless earbuds or this one is super popular, whatever. It's just that they're very common in those off-brand Chinese websites, and comparing this ZNT pair with the previous QCY pair, the QCY pair is a pretty good stand-in or proxy for the batch of cheap generic sub $60, $50 US truly wireless earbuds that was released 6 months to a year ago. It's a proxy for all of those. They're practically almost all the same. They probably came out of the same blueprint in Shenzhen or something, so I believe this comparison is pretty fair to do. So this pair came out third quarter 2018 maybe, and just the 6-month difference in that QCY T1Pro and this, and it's definitely the usage experience is much smoother. Physically, what's the difference between these earbuds and the QCYs is that these have a physical button that you press to activate the multi-functions. They call them MFB or multi-function button. So you press once to pause a song, long press 1 second to activate Google Assistant, long press 2 seconds to activate something they call the ambient sound mode, which I'll talk about later. It's a novelty gimmick for this pair. My previous pair of the QCY T1Pros and a bunch of its other similar brethren with other similar, well, with different varying names that you'll find in GearBest or Lazada or whatever. I noticed a bunch of those from the past half year to late last year. They come with this nice, I don't know what you call it, it's kind of like a touchpad, trackpad type surface that you don't really need to press because it's not physical. You just kind of swipe on it and it responds to your taps. It feels very futuristic, of course, very Apple-esque. However, the bad thing with that is one wrong tap, or just you're not even tapping, just fixing your hair like this, and you accidentally pause a song or reject a call or drop a call even. There is an advantage to having a physical button. Of course, the disadvantage is sometimes it's already in your ear and you gotta be pressing it hard just to perform a function. So it's up to your preference to see what's better and what's worse. It comes with this charging case, a micro USB charging cable, a user manual, and 2 extra pairs of ear tips aside from the pair that's already attached to the earbuds. It runs on Bluetooth 5.0, unlike the batch of previous generation, a generation being 6 months to a year ago, of cheap Bluetooth earbuds that run on usually Bluetooth 4.1 or 4.2. This runs Bluetooth 5.0. I'm not really too obsessed with Bluetooth specs or anything. I don't really know anything about it. For me, I just want something that works, and they say Bluetooth 5.0 will make the connection more stable, and so far, they're right. The previous pair I had, the QCY T1Pros, which ran on Bluetooth 4.2, sometimes when I put it in my bag, which isn't even a very huge bag or anything, like a backpack where your phone is lost among all your stuff, I just put it in my bag sometimes, and then I have the QCYs in my ear, the connection will drop, but it hasn't happened with this pair so far. I've used it for only a day, but I used it extensively. The cons. This pair feels more loose than the previous pair. The previous pair, it feels like if I jump really hard, it will dislodge. But if I'm just walking around, it's pretty snug in my ear. This pair so far, I haven't managed to dislodge it, but it doesn't feel as snug. So the user manual suggests putting it in your ear like this and rotating it a bit so it hooks in the outer ridge of your ear. So it hooks in this ridge. I've already tried out the various other ear tips that came with it, and they still don't feel as okay in my ear as the QCY T1Pro. In fact, with that one and with all my previous inner ear wired earbuds, I've never had to swap out the default ear tips. For this one, I tried them all. Somehow the fit isn't just right. It doesn't seal just right, so it's kind of loose feeling. It just doesn't make me feel secure because I feel like any moment I could lose them or they'll be dislodged. So that's one con about it. The music quality, it's not great for sure. But you buy something like this for the convenience, not for the audiophile quality. The music's clear enough though. The quality is no worse than my previous truly wireless earbuds. However, the volume is much fainter. This pair does not have aptX or anything like that that purports to make audio quality sound nicer over a compressed wireless connection. This does have a novelty feature that ZNT calls ambient sound mode. It means the earbuds uses its microphones to pick up external sounds and you hear it together with your music. The idea of this is that so you're still aware of your surrounding sounds. Well, that's how it's supposed to work in theory, but in reality it doesn't work all that great. In ambient sound mode, which you activate by long pressing on the earbud for 2 seconds, there's sometimes a faint hiss. Even just running your fingers over the earbud will make you hear a hiss. And it's pretty random in what external sounds it chooses to amplify for you. So like when I had these earbuds in my ear and I tried talking to someone, in theory I'd want the voice of my friend to be amplified, but it didn't really pick up on her voice. It ended up magnifying random bird chirps from far away, so I would hear these kind of magnified, amplified bird chirp sounds in my ear. So the ambient sound mode is really more of a novelty feature than something practical. It's definitely not a hearing aid. Also, as I mentioned, these buds don't fit as snug as my previous truly wireless pair, the QCY T1Pros, and my other wired in-ear earbuds. So it's not like the seal is so tight that it causes external sounds to fade away. It does not have the physical sound isolating effect of earbuds with a very good seal. I can still hear the outside world just fine compared to my previous earbuds with a tight seal, so I don't really need this ambient sound. I've tried it out on phone calls and both ears work. That is the main reason I changed to this pair from the previous pair of QCYs. You could only hear out of one ear for that pair when you take a call. However, with this pair, while you could hear with both ears when you take a call, there's a slight delay. It's just like a beat, a fraction of a second, but it's noticeable enough, you know, when you are talking to someone and you're delayed half a beat and they could hear that you're delayed half a beat. On video calls, you could clearly see the audio delay. And it's not because my internet connection was bad. You see the lips of the people you're talking to moving, and the audio gets relayed to these earbuds to your ear just half a beat later. Speaking of lag though, there was literally no lag at all when I was watching YouTube videos with these, unlike my previous pair. Very strange bug though. It worked totally fine for the first 15 minutes, and then after that, the right ear would keep turning itself off, so I would only hear out of one ear when I was watching YouTube. But the first 15 minutes, it worked totally fine. There was no lag at all in synchronization from the video that I was watching to the audio I was hearing, unlike my previous pair, as I mentioned. The battery was at 90%, so it's not like, you know, the battery was so low that it caused this problem. It was just weird. So I ended up taking it out and popping it in the case, charging it to 100%, letting it rest, and then using it again. I then watched videos again on YouTube for around 25 minutes, and I was not able to replicate the strange bug. Although at the time it was already fully charged at 100%, but it was just a strange bug. I watched again for 25 minutes and it was fine. No lag in audio and video, and the right ear did not kill itself inexplicably. So hopefully that was just a one-time bug, and let's cross our fingers it doesn't happen again. If it does, or if anything weird happens again, I'll just write it. I'll just edit the captions below so you could read. So back to calls. My voice sounded fine to the people I talked to because I asked them what I sounded like. In my previous pair, the QCY T1Pros, my voice sounded a bit muddled or far away. I didn't test it anymore in a noisy environment though, because the previous one didn't really work all that great in a loud environment with cars or whatever. I just tested it in somewhere quiet. Tested these in somewhere quiet. These earbuds, they're really made for like the convenience of listening to music and taking the occasional call. They're not like dedicated wireless phone call headsets that, you know, the ones that are just for one ear, and then like the Secret Service or the businessmen, they just have hanging from their ear all day. It doesn't really have like very specialized microphones that can pick up just your voice and kind of drown out the rest of the noisy outside world. So if you want a dedicated phone call wireless headset, I wouldn't get these. But if you're in a quiet place for the occasional phone call, they work just fine. You sound much better than the previous generation of cheap, truly wireless earbuds. ZNT also sells a cheaper pair. It's called the D06-L. That the case looks kind of like a AirPod knockoff. It's much cheaper and it does not have the ambient sound mode novelty gimmick feature that these AirCores have. And that cheaper pair, it can also take calls with both ears. As of the time I'm making and uploading this video, these are the only two pairs that ZNT sells that could take calls in both ears. Now, this may not be something that's important to other people, but it's very important to me because I don't like having two buds in both ears. I'm listening to music, calls comes in, and then I can only hear out of one ear. What am I going to do with the other? I'm going to fumble around for the case to pop this left one in. I don't want to have two buds in but only hear sound out of one ear, because then this will feel like something stuck in my ear and it feels kind of muffled and hollow, but nothing's coming out. It's just very unbalanced and weird. So, but if it's not important to you to be able to take calls in both ears, you don't need this pair. You just get whatever the other, my previous QCY T1Pros, they work just fine for that. Or if you want a cheaper alternative, like I said, the D06-L. It's cheaper and it does not have this gimmicky ambient sound mode that barely works unless you want to pick up loud bird chirps from far away. So the cheaper pair I mentioned, it costs 1,799 Philippine pesos on Lazada as of the time I'm making this video. That's around 33 American dollars. 33 to 34. I got this pair of ZNT AirCores for around 2,299 pesos on Shopee, which is around 43 American dollars. And you can also find them on Lazada for around 3,000 pesos as of the time I'm making this video. That's Philippine pesos, which is more or less around 56 American dollars. Both Shopee and Lazada are big Southeast Asian online retailers. You can also find these ZNTs, both the AirCores I have in hand or the D06-L that I mentioned, or a bunch of other ZNT products, or even the QCY that I reviewed a few months ago on those websites I mentioned, Shopee and Lazada, or GearBest, or AliExpress, or any number of those Chinese e-tailer sites. So these charge the standard way that these true wireless earbuds charge. You usually plop them into this case and they charge. Their charging case serves as a mini power bank to charge them. And you also have to charge the case, of course. When you drop the buds in, they just plop right in there because of some magnets. It's pretty neat. You don't have to fiddle around to make sure they fit the little recessed area right. You just plop them in and the magnet just sucks it into the right place. So the user manual claims around earbud charging time of over 60 minutes. The case would be charged to full from zero for around 120 minutes. And the playtime is around 3.5 hours, according to this manual. Standby time of up to 160 hours. These earbuds are supposed to be IPX5 waterproof. That means you can splash a bit of water in them, and it's okay if you sweat in them a bit if you're at the gym, but I wouldn't recommend getting them totally damp or taking a shower or swimming with them. So as the user manual said, you should be able to get 3.5 hours of playtime with these, but it really depends on your usage, how loud the volume of what you're playing is, whether you're using the ambient sound mode, whether you're switching from regular to ambient sound mode, just keep changing the functions, pressing the buttons. That would obviously use more battery life. If you're just passively listening to music on a low volume, or if you're actively taking calls, switching from a call, pausing a call, whatever, or activating the Google Assistant, or you get the idea. It really depends on your usage. Obviously, if you're taking a call, you're using the microphone too, so it's gonna just drain the battery a little faster than if you're just passively listening to music at 30%. You can see the battery level of the earbuds on your Android's Bluetooth settings area in the notification shade place. Since newer versions of Android now show the battery percentage of your Bluetooth peripherals. So I blasted music at 70% volume for around 3 hours, and I had a Skype call for around 30 to 40 minutes. I started at 100% charge and it dropped to 60% charge during that time. So I used it for around 3 hours already, right? And it didn't hit zero. I just managed to drain it from 100 to 60%. So that's actually better than the playtime average estimate of the user manual, 3.5 hours. I didn't want to keep draining it anymore because it's not good for the battery health, and with these cheap earbuds, I really would take all these estimates with a grain of salt. Just if you're not using it, just charge them. But I'm just relaying to you my personal experience of I was able to use it from 100 to 60% with calls and music of around 3 hours. You get a general idea of its battery life and strength from that. The cheap budget end of this truly wireless earbud product category is still in its infancy. I'm pretty sure in just half a year, newer models would improve even more in audio quality, in stability, in volume, and even ear fit. In just 6 months, this is a marked improvement from my QCY T1Pros. It's a marked improvement from the previous one in terms of reliability, and I could take, as I keep repeating, I could take calls in both ears with this one. That's a huge improvement. I'd still prefer to get the headphone jack back though. Or if phone manufacturers would include at least a dual headphone plus power charging dongle instead of just the headphone to USB-C dongle. That way I could charge while listening to music. A lot of those dual port dongles, they don't really work well because from what I read from online reviews, if you have your earphone plugged in there and you're charging with the other hole in that dongle, you'd usually hear a hiss, or the charging is super slow, or it just heats up and the charging would still be super slow because those dongles, they don't really use the fast charging capabilities of your phone or your charger. So either make a better dongle that would allow you to simultaneously listen with your wired earbuds and charge your phone, or just bring back the headphone jack. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you enjoyed it, please thumb it up and consider subscribing so you can be updated when I upload again. See you next video!